He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi a better place to live, work, and play. You know, I like to think about my goals in life. You know, one of the things I always like to do is try to wake up every morning and think about living today like it's my last day. You know, my cousin actually shared something on Facebook, and I thought it was pretty powerful. It said, whatever you want to do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. And that was Michael Landon from Bonanza that said that. But, you know, the pandemic opportunity or the pandemic situation has created an opportunity for us to remind ourselves what in life is important. And, you know, we've gotten closer to our families. We've gotten closer to our neighbors. There's not all bad in the pandemic situation. I can assure you that. So whatever you want to do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. Very good one. Hey, today we got a great show. In the first half, we're going to be talking with Bill Lavers, who's the Executive Director of the Harrison County Development Commission. And in the second half, we're going to be talking with Wayne Rodolfich from the Pascagoula-Gautier school system and the Superintendent of the Year last year. He is such a visionary in the education arena. I can't wait to get an update from him about what's going on. And Bill, before we move to you, I saw just as we were coming on that Huntington Ingalls Industries was awarded a $936 million contract to build another Navy destroyer. It's incredible how important Ingalls, that often talk about Ingalls being the bookend on one end and Stennis Space Center being the bookend on the other end, and all the stuff that's going on in between, the economic development, the tourism, the incredible place that we had to live here. But it's great to see, even in this mode of pandemic, that Huntington Ingalls continues to move forward very aggressively. They're super important to us, aren't they?
They are. They are.
So it's been over 2 months since we talked. I was amazed by that because it seemed like it was not that long ago.
Part of it seems like, you know, it's like a marriage. It didn't seem like we've been married that long, but it's been a long. You know, so
yeah, it is. We had a terrific conversation last time, and I remember you said that you had talked to 4 CEOs just that week, and that the phones were ringing and all of that. I'm just curious, as the pandemic has continued to sort of unfold, has activities still remained high?
Yeah, and you're good luck, because before we got on this call, I got an email with a contract that I've been chasing for about 4 months. So
wow.
It's only it's not a $900 million deal like Ingalls, but we'll take every base hit and bump we can get for a new business wanting to expand in Gulfport and Harrison County.
You know, your compadres over in Jackson County had George Freeland on recently, and he mentioned that he's really looking forward to making a couple of big announcements before the end of the year. And as you saw, your other compadre over in Hancock County, they made an announcement this week, Bill Cork and his team. So really, you know, it's good to see it. I mean, all the economic development people say the same thing, that there's tremendous opportunities in the works, and hopefully we can pull some of that off. You know, the flag issue is behind us now, but I know that your commission also, like all the others, supported the efforts to get this flag changed. Anything you want to say about that?
Commissioner Sneed, who's a previous guest of yours when you first started the show, made the motion to support the change of the flag, and Warren Conway seconded it, and it was unanimous vote at our meeting on the 16th. So that was our message. We didn't do a resolution or anything, but we felt like it was time to change for the betterment of all of Mississippi for the future.
Yeah, I think that we're moving in that direction now, and I've had numerous talks with economic development people all across Mississippi, and they're thrilled now that they don't have to explain that flag. And again, we don't know how many deals we didn't get because people just didn't consider us because of the situation that existed. Hey, I want to make sure people understand the Harrison County Development Commission, and you know, your Bob Bernard Industrial Park, Long Beach Industrial Park, North Harrison Industrial Park, and Socia. You sell land, you lease land, You have over 400 customers in your water and sewer systems. And as you mentioned, your board just now, as it related to the flag, you have a 12-member board. They're appointed by mayors, the board of supervisors, and the governor. And I mean, it's a strong organization that's doing a lot of different stuff. But one thing we talked about before we started, for people who know the industrial seaway in Gulfport, it may be that that's all you've always known it just to be there, but someone had to have the vision 60 years ago to create that. And now looking back on that, what incredible vision that was to build that. It made a difference, didn't it?
It really did. And the name Dido, as Warren's grandfather, was one of the instigators of that. And to think about not being here then, but to think about what they had to do to convince people to cut that seaway in. And now, the 2 acres that we're selling on Seaway Road is because of that previous forethought and investment in our community. So, and it took us a little while to sell that 2 acres, unfortunately, but everything has its time. So, and not just the seaway, but the businesses that are developed along there, the railroad that we're still trying to reconvene back into service along the seaway to provide that necessary mode of transportation to those industries, both for import and export. And it's kind of mind-boggling if you try to do that today. How much fun would it be trying to convince somebody? And we actually have the map in the front law office of the original plan was to take it all the way to Pass Christian. So, wow. They got stopped by the cloverleaf of the interchange. But just think about how difficult that would be today with environmental rules and all the other things that have come into play, because when they cut the seaway, there was no EPA, there was no Corps of Engineers, there were no wetlands permits, there were no, there were some of those things, but not nearly to the degree they are today. So yeah, very thankful, very appreciative, and our job for all of us, me, George, Cork, all of us, is we have to think about, like Wayne Gretzky says, we got to think about where the puck's going to be, not where the puck is. So we've got to try to get to where our next adventure's going to be. And, Cork wants to go to Mars. I'm okay staying here. But that's what we've got to do. We've got to think ahead and be planning for what's the next best thing for our community.
Hey, let's do this. I know you've got a laundry list of things you want to talk about, and I want to get to those. But before we do that, real quick, I wanted 2 things. First of all, how are your current clients doing? What's the nature of their situation these days related to the pandemic? And then how's your team doing?
Team, let me answer that first. They're great. We came back May 4th. They were basically begging me to come back to the office. They didn't like the lockdown too much, and we're taking precautions here in the office, social distancing. If anybody knows Marcia Crawford, who runs our coastal partnership, she has an 8 to 10 foot perimeter, not 6 foot social distancing. So we stay out of Marcia's way in the office. But everybody's glad to be back at work. Their families are doing well. No, we haven't had anybody test or really know anybody, so we're thankful for that as well. As far as the business, it depends on what, we did a report that's on our website, mscoast.org, under news. We did Chamorro Data Economics did an analysis for us. And a lot of our industries weren't impacted because the military, just like the Ingalls contract, DOD contracts didn't get canceled. The bases didn't lose any real, employment. So a lot of our customers were deemed essential. So the other thing that report pointed out was that because of our drive-in nature for tourism, they felt like we would be one of the first places to recover because people would, instead of flying to the Caribbean, they might drive in from Atlanta. So we view that as an opportunity for people that may not have ever come to the coast before to have that first experience, to experience the hospitality of the coast and the food and the variety, and then go back home as parents and say, you wouldn't believe what we saw in Pass Christian, Gulfport, Biloxi, D'Iberville, Long Beach. Can't leave anybody out.
Yeah.
So, that I think is an opportunity for us on the horizon as we maybe get more exposure and more people here that wouldn't have considered us before because it was easy to get on an airplane. So if you were in the oil business, it's not a good time. We talked to a chemical company yesterday that's gone from 3 shifts to 2. So it's hit or miss, but most of our industries have succeeded, and a lot of them are hiring and continue to hire. Golden Metals is hiring, U.S. Marines hiring, Seaman Composites is hiring. So they're still, they have their foot on the gas still. So we're happy and proud for that.
I have a very good friend of mine who works for Harvey Golf, and it's been hard watching through his eyes the challenges the oil industry has had. Really difficult time for them.
Yeah.
Hey, so why don't we do this? When we come back, we'll pick it up there. I want to make a quick point about the tourism industry that you just mentioned and the opportunity there for us, and then we'll get to the other things on your list. So this is Bill Lavers, the Executive Director of the Harrison County Development Commission, and we'll be back right after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam, as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had 2 different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, in a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on Super Talk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
We serve on the front lines, fighting an invisible enemy and caring for our communities with courage and compassion. The COVID-19 crisis has challenged us like never before. Now, the men and women of America's hospitals and health systems are counting on Congress and the administration to stand with us as we stand ready to care for you in every way, every day.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, Super Talk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the Super Talk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you, and it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Super Talk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We have Bill Lavers with us. He's the executive director of the Harrison County Development Commission. And one of the things you said before we went to break, you were talking about tourism opportunities that are available to us. And for a second there, you actually sounded like Milton Segura, who's been on the show a number of times. And, you know, Milton got this early on, that one of the keys to our success going forward would be that since 80% of the people who already came to coastal Mississippi before the pandemic came by car, that it was going to create a really great opportunity for us as people are going to be somewhat leery about traveling by plane. Even though, you know, in my conversations with Clay Williams, we're beginning to see, you know, the flights begin to uptick again, and the airport's doing a really good job of managing that growth back again. It's like you guys and like the other economic development folks, the airport was on fire in the days going into the pandemic. But Milton says that we've got to be seen as a place that's safe to visit. And, you know, we've seen an uptick in COVID. Some of that the doctors that I talked to and the administrators that I talked to on the show say that they expected a slight uptick because of the reopening of the economy. But in the show, I always try to remind people that the pandemic is definitely real. I had a family member, not my immediate family, but in my extended family, have a family member that came down with COVID this week. And it was, you know, when it hits home like that, it reminds you, you know, and the fact that, you know, she's a younger person, so she's going to quarantine herself. But, you know, if she were to come in contact with some of the older members of our family, it could be devastating. And we just kind of keep that front and center. The other thing is, I think when people are out, if they'll just wear a mask when they're in public and social distance and wash their hands and not go out if they run in a fever, and especially protect the vulnerable, that we can continue to send a message to the world, this is a safe place to visit. That's so important. And I appreciate, you know, it's interesting that in your role, you see it and you're a partner in that effort. And I really appreciate you bringing it up. So, Bill, what else is on your mind? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, to that, just a little add on to that, Stacy Pickering came last week, I think it was last week, and visited us with the Mississippi VA and how so many people want to retire specifically to the coastal counties from all over the country, not just Mississippi. So, and he met with Milton. So, you know, if you come for a visit and then you decide this is a great place and you might have a business that you might want to relocate, that's okay too. You know, so
yeah.
All fine. We don't focus on tourism as much as Milton does, but it's part of our conversation because our business owners come here, they see the quality of life, they see the variety, and they go back home, and that's what they're talking about, and that's what we want, because then they might find somebody that, well, I hadn't thought about that. I need to go up there and check that out myself. So we've been the direct recipient last year of 7 different countries and probably over 100 people coming to Mississippi for the first time, and we get to witness what all of us know in the community. But we get to hear it in German and Colombian and Peruvian, you know, how much they really had no idea what. And, you know, Mayor Hughes talks about that all the time. So does Fofo. So does Chipper. So does George. And so does Mayor Quay. So I can't leave anybody out. You know? So a quick list of things that we've done since the last
Hey, incidentally, hey, Bill, before you move on, real quick, Stacy Pickering has done a great job of representing the veterans community. I was glad he got a promotion yesterday, actually, and he's going to be headed up to the national level and working on the national level. So, you know, good for him.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Great ambassador for Mississippi. We look forward to partnering with him. He came because of the Coastal Partnership, and then I got to put my clause into him about economic development and other things while he was here. We had, last time we talked, we had Project Batman and Robin that are basically solar projects that we're working on. We now have Project Batgirl, which is not a solar project, but it's somewhat related, and it's in Saussure. We have Project Bald Eagle. We have Project Rocket. I'll let you figure out what that is. We have Project Yellow Submarine. I just told you we got a 2-acre contract this morning. We put together a deal. We had 2,800 feet of rail in Long Beach that hadn't been used in 30 years. We put a deal together on it for a company that needed the extra warehouse space for rail cars because of the pandemic, and they paid to improve it, and we're making a lease payment off of that. So it was a good deal for both parties. We have FL Crane. This is a picture. I'm going to try to do this. This is a picture of their 60,000 square foot facility in Saussure. They moved the cranes in about 2 weeks ago. So that's an active job site up in Socher.
Wow. Yeah.
No,
That's a big
which is
facility.
Mississippi company. Yeah, 60,000 square feet, and it'll employ about 50 people. And great family-owned business in Mississippi. They make the skin for Hospital Corporation of America, Chick-fil-A, a lot of hotels. So they do prefab construction in that building and then shrink wrap it and ship it all over the country. And they put together a building in 8 days instead of eight weeks or 8 months. So
wow.
Great technology, great people to deal with. We also have tomorrow we have a site visit with a company that's going to bring some really cool technology. And I'm going to walk out the back door real quick. We got this is another great example. While we were in the pandemic, this guy, Tim McGee, owner of Advanced Collisions, who I love, is very impatient. So we met on the grass during the pandemic, and he bought this lot, and he's building a 9,000 square foot building to house his wife's accounting part of the business and a lot of his other ancillary things that he does. He's working on a special project for the aquarium. And I love people like Tim that I got to get out of their way because they're going to run me over to get started doing something. So that makes our job fun. And it felt good. That was during the pandemic. I got to walk around in the grass and talk to somebody about a deal. And, that we put that deal together in about 4 weeks. And that's the second building.
Just real quick on Tim, I've known Tim for many years and have followed him. He spends a lot of time in the Bahamas, but after the hurricane, I don't know how many times he went back to provide, supplies and aid for the people in the community there that he had fallen in love with. That was just incredible to watch that. I don't know how he finds the time to do all those things.
And I run about 100 miles an hour. He probably runs about 140 to 150, wide open all the time. And, there's a little infomercial for Tim, but
well, we need leaders like Tim. Those entrepreneurs are the ones who make this place tick. They provide jobs. They give back to the community. You can't have enough Tim McGee's.
And we have another. We're going to pass Christiane tonight, a public hearing for planning and zoning for another customer like Tim McGee that wants to move in a crab dock into the neighborhood. And so great customer there as well. We're working on clearing. I was going to clear 17 acres. I wrote the note down and then got the contract for 2. So now it's only 15 on Seaway Road to get the trees out of the way to prepare for who wants to come next on some of those sites. And then I've got another deal right here, literally out the back. I've sold all the land kind of in intraplex except for one little 6-acre piece, and I've cut that up to make it corporate court, which is smaller lots, and I should get a contract on that today for the first lot in that section. So this sign behind my head says knowledge. I mean, imagination is more important than knowledge, so we practice that around here every day. So if we've got a piece of land that we've had for 20 years that's 7 acres and nobody wanted it, well, let's cut it up and see if somebody wants a smaller bite of that pie, So we do that, and we've got this visit tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. I can't really talk too much about it yet, but we've got a really, really cool company coming with some very cool technology. And we talked last time about what we do with the kids in C-Force. We're an ACT workforce ready community now. We did that in 6 months. We had a 1-year goal. Brandy Huff and Marcia and Mel at the port and Sandy Comer East at Gulfport High School worked very, very hard to accomplish that in record time. The press release was just released yesterday. It's on our website, mscoast.org, under news. And so with that, we're still doing C-Force. It's been curtailed a little bit because of the pandemic, but we still have students deployed in small business. And this new company, when we have a follow-up, I'll have pictures of this new deal because it's going to have already happened by then, and it's going to be great for the community, and it's also going to be great for the kids, and it's going to be great for the military. I mean, it's going to be great for everybody, and it's some really insane technology that we need that other people have, but we don't have it on the coast, and we're going to get our chance to ride along with that, I hope. So So wish us luck tomorrow from 11 o'clock. We got a team of about 6 people coming for a visit.
Wow, that's awesome. Good luck to you.
Yeah,
good luck.
Thanks.
You know what's it's awesome to hear the enthusiasm in your voice, because you get into this pandemic situation, you really don't know what we're going to face. But in some ways, technology has enabled us to continue to communicate, and in some cases, actually provided more time to visit and have longer conversations and all that. So, Bill, we're running out of time, but here's what we'll do. We'll have you back in 3 or 4 weeks. And we'll just stay in touch with you. That's going to be my commitment to the economic development people along the coast, because your work is so important. I think it's even doubly important for me and for us to continue to educate people about the roles that you play in our community and why it's so darn important that we provide our assistance to your efforts at any opportunity we get. So thank you for your leadership, and I appreciate your friendship.
Well, same here. And I'll make this guarantee. The next time we talk, we'll have a whole new list of things to talk about, because we're crossing the old things off the list and getting those done and moving on to the next one. So I appreciate your support, helping us get the word out about what we do, and it's fun and it's exciting, And if you ever want to learn a little bit more, come by the office and we'll ride along with me for the day. Frankie Castiglia has regretted that a couple of times, because can I go home now? And it's like 6:30, and I'm like, no, we got a dinner to go to,
So we got to end it here, but we'll talk to you in a few weeks. This has been Bill Lavers from the Harrison County Development Commission.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90, Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A compassionate young man who became a dinner companion for a stranger makes today's Dean's List. Lisa Mealander and her family had been eating at the Eaton Park in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, when she noticed how her server was interacting with a senior patron. The server, Dylan Teetle, had dropped to one knee so he could give his full attention to the gentleman. Lisa wrote on Facebook, the man apologized for not hearing well, and he talked about how he lost his hearing during the war. He was 91 years old with many stories to tell, and Dylan patiently listened, giving him his full attention. He also helped the man figure out a meal from the menu before putting the order into the kitchen. Lisa tried to flag Dylan down so she could offer to pay for the man's meal. Dylan said someone else had already taken care of the check. Before leaving her table, Lisa snapped pictures of Dylan chatting with the senior and published them to Facebook, where they have been since shared thousands of times. Thank you, Dylan, for your kindness, and Lisa for sharing this story with all of us. Janice Dean, Fox News.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from Supertalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. Staying informed is a full-time job, even more so during an election year. That's why Supertalk is here. With Fox News, News Mississippi, and the Super Talkers, you'll go inside the campaigns, and we'll separate what's real from what's not to bring you the latest information that matters. From now until you go into the voting booth on November 3rd, your election headquarters is Super Talk, Mississippi. Available on the Super Talk app and at supertalk.fm. From the Gallo Radio Show archives.
In the house, Mike Hurst. When I started at the end of 2017, sadly, our office had gotten so low during the last administration. I think in FY16, we prosecuted 11 illegal immigration cases, 11, which is embarrassing. First year I was there, we had jumped almost 700% to 77 prosecutions. And Paul, that number I think is going to increase very much more this year. We are continuing to see illegal immigration impact crime around the state. I'll give you a perfect example. About a month ago, we prosecuted an illegal alien who had brought 9 kilos of heroin and 1 kilo of fentanyl through our state. Now, to give your listeners an idea of what 2.2 pounds of fentanyl will do, that will wipe out 1 million people, Paul. That'll wipe out 1/3 of our state.
This has been another Gallo Radio Show audio archive.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer-songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on Super Talk Mississippi, the Super Talk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. That was a terrific conversation we just had with Bill Lavers of the Harrison County Development Commission. Bill and his team at the commission are doing a terrific job of staying focused on economic development here in coastal Mississippi, just as all of our economic development people are. It's been amazing watching them in this pandemic situation, but essentially life goes on. In fact, activity is actually increased, which has been a really good thing to see. So if you missed that, you can go to the Super Talk Gulf Coast Facebook page and watch my conversation with Bill Lavers, and others as well. Now let's turn the page and move to our friend Wayne Rodolfich, who's the superintendent of schools for Pascagoula-Gautier School District. He's been there for 15 years, and last year he was actually recognized as the Mississippi's Superintendent of the Year. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to another great school year.
I know you are, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation. But before we do that, I wanted to real quickly reflect with you about the historic flag vote over the weekend. Thoughts?
Well, I tell you, I was very proud of Bryce Wiggins, who brought it up. I was very proud of Jeremy England and the way that he defended his position. Both are Pascagoula products. And I'm really excited about the economic opportunities and the racial relationships that we're going to build as a result of making this change.
Yeah, Ashley Edwards and I had 2 segments that we discussed sort of reflecting on it yesterday. And I regret that I didn't mention Bryce Wiggins' name. He did a great job early on of getting some sense of what people's thoughts were about it, and he was very much active in the debate discussion. And then I did mention Jeremy yesterday because as a freshman senator, he was all in. He believed this was the right thing to do, and I know that some had political decisions to make, and I understand that. But some decided to be statesmen and say, "I'm not going to look at the political dimensions of it. I'm going to do what's right." So when you look at it, just if you freeze the political dimension for a second and just look at it from sort of a human being, a humankind perspective, and an economic perspective, I say it was a pretty easy decision to make. So,
it's creating a wonderful platform for the state of Mississippi to really have a great resurgence in the spirit of our state. I truly believe that. And Jeremy England has been a statesman since he was a senior in high school. I had the good fortune of him being one of our students at Pascagoula High School, and he's always had that great demeanor and analytical point of view.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great to see young people coming up and willing to lead in that way. I'm I'm so impressed by that. They weren't alone. There were a lot of leaders, and it'd be almost impossible to try to mention them all. But the good news is we got the votes, we made history, and now we get to turn that chapter and move forward. So anyway, man, so tell me about it. What's the situation there? Are we going back to school?
Well, we're having a board meeting today, and we're going to recommend that we start school. Of course, there's a load of precautions that we will be taking for our students. We'll be adjusting transportation schedules, how we move around the building. We'll be taking temperatures of all of our students. There will be face masks on people whenever they're within the 6-foot area that they're supposed to be in. And I wanted to share with you, and I don't know how well we can get this on camera, but this will be released today. And basically, it's a front and back page that basically outlines everything we're doing and how we're going to try to make sure that every child is safe and every teacher is safe. And we have one sheet for teachers and one sheet for students. It is not comprehensive yet because there's still some technologies out there that we're trying to make sure that we can get in our possession before we list them as part of our protocol.
Hey, do you know, because I don't know the answer to this question, as you look across the school districts of coastal Mississippi, are most of them moving down a similar trail?
It's really unknown. Everyone's still analyzing it. And I promise you, there is a disclaimer at the end of this sheet, at the bottom of the sheet, that says that we will be adjusting this plan all the way up until school starts. Any major setbacks or anything that would be experienced where the governor would have to intervene, of course, we're going to follow the lead of our governor and the major health networks. But, yesterday an article came out for the American Association of Pediatric Physicians talking about the importance of bringing children back to school. There's multiple healths, that we're talking about here. First of all, we have our physical health, no question about it, where we're trying to keep children from being infected, trying to keep teachers from getting infected family members. But you also have mental health, which is something that has had an impact. Children have been out of school now for 9 weeks. They're about to go again. There's a loss of educational attainment during the course of that time, regardless of what quality of virtual education we give. And then there are those students who lack the equity of having that internet capacity at their home, which sets them even further back. And typically those are the students who have the greatest need for being in the classroom. And then but the mental and emotional side of it as well. And we've got a comprehensive plan for that as well, how to address that with our students and our teachers. If you go back to when we were with, Hurricane Katrina, we were out for 27 days. We had to build a plan to come back. It was a different type of scenario, but it's really a lot like that scenario about getting people back to work and those kind of things. It's just different because you have something that's invisible now. You're trying to fight against.
So I have a lot of questions. We're not going to be able to go through your 2 pages on the air here, but is there a big contact tracing component to it? How do you know if a family member somewhere along the way related to those kids has come down with COVID, and how are you made aware of it?
Well, our first chance to deal with it was when a student comes on campus and they have their temperature checked before they come in the building. If a child is over 100 degrees, it's an immediate quarantine of that child and contact of the parents. We're asking parents if they will contact us within 3 hours of a diagnosis of students, so that we can then go back and trace our classroom to make sure anyone that was in the immediate proximity of this child would be able to be notified that they were in the proximity of a child that had COVID, and then they could subsequently be tested. The 14-day quarantines, all those things are in place. And since March 19th, we have had 3 positives from staff members or teachers, 3 total, and that's a 3-month, 90-day time period. None of those originated on the school campus. They were all relatives that had relatives that had it, and they were all immediately quarantined. And then we sent our letter to all the employees who were in proximity of them, but there wasn't any other infection.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really good to hear. What are you hearing from the teachers? Are they looking forward to getting back in? Or they have reservations? What's your read on it?
Well, I think it's important that teachers have been very proactive in our district, and I'll give you an example. Whenever we went out for this, we had teachers who created 2,300 instructional videos to load online. That required a lot of additional work. Our teachers made nearly 700,000 documented contacts on school status. We served approximately 180,000 meals during that March 19th until the end of the month. So we have been very active with parents in creating these opportunities. One other thing I'll tell you, and we feel like we filled a void for the state of Mississippi, we created a tech camp for teachers, which was a virtual tech camp. We just trained 2,200 teachers from all over Mississippi. Actually, 130 districts were represented there, plus 4 other states were involved. And these teachers are able to get CEUs remotely. There were 37 sessions, totally free for 2 days.
Wow.
And so the deficit of training in Mississippi, we're trying to fill that void to help others.
Wow, that's awesome. We learned a lot, didn't we, about distance learning and the role that technology can and should play in our lives. But there's really no substitute for in-person, eye-to-eye training, is there?
Well, there isn't. And here's the issue that you have. You have unsupervised children that you're relying on to be mature enough not to be on their gaming systems, not to be on their cell phones, not to be texting, and to have total attention to a teacher who's trying to teach remotely online. And it's just really, when you start looking at the real numbers, it just doesn't have the same impact as having children in a classroom.
So let me say, if a parent pushes back and says, I just don't want my child to go into that environment, what's the recourse there?
Well, we're going to closely look at that request from parents, and we're going to base it on what are their health needs, if there's a health issue that's pre-existing that may need to be addressed. But we're going to encourage all of our students to come back to school.
So that's good. You think you said you're bringing it up before your school board today, you said?
Yeah, we have a 12 o'clock meeting today, and I'm just going to ask them if they'll approve us to begin school, just like Biloxi did.
Yeah.
And Biloxi has a similar plan. They're going to do the same concept of cleaning and bringing people in and social distancing and all that. And I think you're going to see that across the coast. You will have some districts I've heard are going to shift students. When I do the math on that, I think you're starting to add a whole lot of work to teachers then.
Yeah, as I mentioned to you before, my daughter Tori Williams is a teacher at St. James Elementary Catholic School in Gulfport, and they're going back, and they've been doing a lot of training and whatever. And I also got to watch through her eyes the challenges of teaching remotely, even though I think they did a great job under the circumstances, allowing kids to finish school and all that. When we come back, let's continue that conversation about what we learned about teaching, what parents might have learned about their appreciation for teachers as a result of the situation. We'll be back with Wayne Rodolfich, who's the superintendent of schools for the Pascagoula-Gautier school system, right after this.
Subscribe for free to the Coast Vue podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, Super Talk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
This is House Call for Health. Medical researchers spend years developing drugs to treat cancer, but it's possible the next big cancer-fighting breakthrough could already be in your medicine cabinet. Scientists have long known that a drug for one ailment can sometimes be effective in treating something else. Aspirin is the most famous example. Researchers at Harvard, MIT, and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute tested more than 4,500 existing medications. They found 48 drugs that killed at least some cancer cells. These drugs are for several different conditions, including diabetes, inflammation, and alcoholism. One drug is used for treating arthritis in dogs. Researchers in the journal Nature Cancer said the medications sometimes worked in different ways than mainstream cancer drugs. Now they hope these drugs can be further developed into true new weapons against cancer. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Let me know if you're en route.
Conscious, Main Street, and West Road, 49 Adams.
A lot of people are just worried about supplies.
Our supplies are getting pretty low, and that gives us great concern.
Aside from the PPE issues, they're really worried about if they are exposed and they have to be away from work for a certain amount of time.
We're going to need some money there. And so that's one way the public can support us as well, is keep sending money into that support fund.
What I really, truly hope is that people don't forget that feeling right now of wanting to volunteer and give back to their community.
I hope this doesn't dramatically change the volunteer fire service.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. Super Talk Mississippi, the Super Talk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors. Here, the show Saturdays at 1, right here on Super Talk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on Super Talk Mississippi.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to good things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on Super Talk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices. Super Talk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the Super Talk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. Super Talk Mississippi. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Wayne Rodolfich, who's the superintendent of schools for Pascagoula-Gautier school system, and we're talking about the board meeting actually that's going to occur today, looking for their support to get school year started this year. And he talked about all the things are having a double pay. I'm sure that you summarize it on that two-sided deal, but the plan's got to be super complex. But one of the things I want to make sure we talk about is, one of the things that, watching through my daughter's eye, the teacher that I mentioned before we went to break, watching it through her eyes, I bet, and you see this, and I'm sure your teachers see this, that parents got a chronic appreciation for the role that teachers play in our society today. For this moment, suddenly all these kids were home, and we were trying to make remote learning better, and they weren't in that structured environment like they were before, and suddenly they're home. It was, in some ways, I think that's probably good for parents to be reminded about the role teachers in school play in the development of their children. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you as a parent myself that I have been just blown away by the ability of a teacher to manage 20 children under the age of 8 years old. I have 3 at my home, and it looks like a cyclone hits my living room on a daily basis. I was like, why can't we keep our house clean? It's because these children are here every day, and my wife is like, they're just stir crazy. They want to get out. And then their teachers, whenever their teachers would call them or do a neighborhood parade or whatever they did, you would just see a light go off on my kids, and they're so excited that their teacher, was paying. And I was like, why don't you get that excited when you see me? And, but the bottom line is, yes, our teachers are magicians. They do unbelievable things for children, and they deserve every compliment that they get whenever it comes to helping our kids.
And, you mentioned this offline, but let's talk about it for a second. It's not just that formal learning that happens in the school, in the classroom, but it's all those other experiential things that are happening around their lives that help develop them as people. That's hugely important, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, my daughter, we collect like animals, and we have these biomes that we build and paint. And the teachers every year have suggested, hey, why don't you bring your biomes in and introduce a class to them? And there are students who are learning about terminology, topography, temperatures that they'd never learned before. And that's all about teachers just being innovative and saying, hey, here's a learning experience. It's not in the curriculum, but let's add it because this is something my kids may not know. So it's exciting to watch the different ways that teachers teach.
You know, you've seen, okay, so you've been there 15 years. That's amazing, by the way. Time flies, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
So you've seen the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. You've seen, really seismic shifts in the way education works. The requirements that are being placed on educators today versus 15 years ago, just dramatic. I'm just curious, how does the pandemic weigh with all the things that you've seen in your career?
Well, it's one of the most challenging things we've ever dealt with because, like I've said before, it is invisible. You can't put it in front of you and say, okay, I'm going to solve this problem and I'm going to 100% solve it 100% of the time. But you'll find that that's very common in education. When you look at an accountability model, you're going to have kids that fall out on a normal curve of distribution. Some will fall on this end, some on that end. So some children are going to be better equipped for hygiene. Some kids will be better equipped for the resources that they have that they don't have to share with other people. So we're trying to create an environment where we minimize that contact between people, but at the same time have people in the same space. And we're going to do it through one-to-one technology, through a lot of virtual meetings with parents and children. And, so there's going to be some opportunity to really innovate and utilize technology as a tool, but not as the primary function of education. It's just not, we're not ready yet.
Yeah, I see that. Hey, listen, I want to make sure we talk about the things you want to talk about, but I am curious about something. When I'm on social media, when I'm doing this show, the feedback that I get, most people get that we have certain tools at our disposal: face masks, social distancing, washing our hands, protecting the vulnerable, all those things. Most people understand that. There's a group of people who don't understand it. There are a group of people who have neither not educated themselves or choose to think that it's some kind of conspiracy or whatever, or that I'm not going to worry about it, that it's not as bad as people say it is. And so the students' parents that you're dealing with, they have varying levels of understanding about the pandemic. How are you making sure that they get it?
Well, for one thing, I've done 9 COVID messages since all this started, where I video a message and give it to parents through social media. And then I get some feedback from parents as that result. But we've also gauged parents' feelings because we put a survey out to determine what type of schooling they wanted their children to have in the return to school. The other thing is I do home visits. I've completed 270 home visits so far this summer, where I actually bring a book to a parent for their child and encouraged our children to read during the summer. And from that, I have parents saying, Mr. Rodolfich, are we going back to school this year? And I'm like, our intention is to go back to school, and thank God that we're going back to school. Because, here's the reality, economic reality. People have to go to work in order to keep our economy moving. And I understand the tremendous concern about this pandemic. But at the same time, Mississippi cannot sustain economically where we are if we're not at work. And that's one of the variables that we've got to figure out.
Well, listen, you're the fact that you're going by visiting parents, I remember that in our extended Coast Vue session. What an amazing commitment to do that, but what great feedback you get. Hey, we're out of time, but we're not going to wait so long next time before we get back together again. In fact, we ought to probably get together in just a couple of weeks just to update everybody about, where are we and what's new about your procedures, et cetera. But thank you for joining me. I appreciate your leadership.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. Call me.
You bet, buddy. You bet. It's been Wayne Rodolfich from the Pascagoula-Gautier School System, and we'll see you later.